You stand in front of the pantry, filled with good intentions. You've started a new health plan, and this time, you're determined to make it work. You tell yourself, I can have these cookies in the house. I have enough self-control to eat just one. But a week later, the entire box is gone. Why does this keep happening? Let's rewind. At the beginning of your diet, your motivation is high. You feel clear, focused, and powerful. You believe your willpower is a fortress, strong enough to withstand any temptation. You go grocery shopping and confidently place a box of your favorite cookies in the cart. You see it not as a threat, but as a test you are certain you will pass. You rationalize the decision. It's about balance, you think. I won't deprive myself. I'll just be disciplined. This feeling of control is reassuring and makes you feel strong. For the first few days it works. You walk past the pantry without a second thought. Your confidence grows. You think, see, I knew I could handle it. Then, a stressful day happens. You get home from work, feeling exhausted and drained. Your emotional reserves are low, and your carefully constructed willpower starts to crack. Suddenly, the cookies aren't just cookies. They are a source of comfort, a quick reward, a moment of escape from the day's frustrations. You find yourself standing in front of the pantry again. Your rational mind from the morning feels like a distant memory. Another voice takes over. This voice whispers, "Just one. You deserve it after the day you've had. One cookie won't ruin everything." It sounds perfectly reasonable in the moment. So you have one, and for a brief moment, it feels good. The sugar hits, the stress melts away, and you feel a rush of relief. But then, something shifts. The first cookie doesn't satisfy the craving. It awakens it. It opens a floodgate you thought was firmly locked. The voice comes back, only now it's more demanding. Well, you already had one. The day is a write-off anyway. You might as well have another. Before you know it, you've eaten 2, then 4, then the entire row. The feeling of control is gone, replaced by a cycle of impulse and regret. You look at the empty box and feel a familiar wave of disappointment. You blame yourself for having no willpower, for being weak. But the problem isn't a simple lack of willpower. The failure was set in motion days earlier, when you overestimated your own strength. Psychologists explain this using the concept of 2 different states, a cold state and a hot state. When you're in a cold state, you are calm, rational, and not facing any immediate temptation. This is when you make your plans, set your goals, and feel invincible. When you decided to buy the cookies, you were in a cold state. Your logical brain was in charge, and the pull of temptation felt distant and manageable. A hot state, however, is driven by visceral feelings like hunger, stress, or fatigue. In this state, your perspective narrows, and your desire for immediate gratification skyrockets. When you came home after a long day, you entered a hot state. Your brain wasn't interested in long-term goals. It wanted immediate comfort. The mistake we all make is that our cold self dramatically underestimates how our hot self will behave. We create rules and environments assuming we will always be the calm, rational version of ourselves, completely forgetting the tired, stressed, and impulsive version that eventually takes over. This predictable error in thinking is called restraint bias. It's our tendency to overestimate our ability to show restraint in the face of temptation. We believe our future self will have the same level of self-control as our present self. But when temptation actually arrives, our willpower is often weaker than we predicted. It's like a sober person confidently saying they can go to a wild party and have just one drink. The intention is good, but it fails to account for the powerful influence of the environment and their own internal state. Restraint bias explains why so many well-intentioned plans fail. We put ourselves in situations where we have to fight temptation, believing we'll win, when we're actually set up to lose. So what's the solution? It's not to have more willpower. It's to stop relying on willpower in the first place. The key is to practice what psychologists call situational self-control. Don't create a battle you have to fight. Instead, design an environment where the battle never happens. Don't ask, how can I resist the cookies? Ask, how can I make sure I don't have to? Because the easiest temptation to resist is the one that isn't there.